the perfect watch around 5,000 bucks? What even is around 5,000 bucks anymore? Watches have become so expensive since COVID. They've come down a bit, but it's just crazy. Today's episode is sponsored by our friends over at Squarespace. And today, I'm not just going to be talking about what I think is one of the greatest watches ever made that remains around $5,000, but I'm wearing it. So we're going to have a bunch of really great footage. Malcolm took a bunch of great footage for you guys to make the episode more interesting. So the watch is the Cartier Santos Carée. They also have another model, the Cartier Santos Galbi, and now they have the modern Santos that comes in medium and large. Both fantastic watches, but today I'm talking about this one, and there's a reason why. So let's rewind and establish why this class of watch is so great. And in a little bit, I'll tell you the story about how I got this watch and what I paid, which was well under $5,000 because I was a little bit ahead of the curve here. So this class of watch, what is it, and why is it so important? This class of watch is for lack of a better term, it is the elegant sports watch. Okay, unlike a Cartier Tank or a Patek Philippe Calatrava or an Audemars Piguet Disco Volante, or unlike that whole class of watch that tend to be a little bit grandpa-ish, a little bit uptight, a little bit formal, and in turn specific, right? And off-putting or just not comfortable on the wrists of most modern gentlemen. These watches are sporty. Right? They feel young, they feel energized, they feel hip and relevant. This is not your grandfather's watch, although some grandpas actually have pretty fantastic taste and do wear this watch because they bought them new back in the late 70s and early 80s, but I digress. These watches are elegant enough to be formal and professional, right? But they still have a sport to them that is young and just vibrant, right? Kind of rough and tumble and masculine. Unlike the Submariner, which is, right, even more masculine, but it tends to be casual, right? The Sub, in its many variations, back from the 70s and 80s and 90s up till today, and the watch has remained very similar, obviously, but it's changed and it's become even bigger and even blingier, but it was always a very kind of, casual, for lack of a better term, watch. And because it's so casual, while it certainly does belong in meetings and it certainly, does look great in a suit for many people, there's definitely an argument, a well-reasoned argument, or, I think a legitimate, desire in the market for something that is sleeker when you want to dress up a little bit. Again, nothing against the folks that wear subs with suits and with, right, fine clothing. Nothing wrong with it at all. God bless you. But there's certainly a whole world of people that say, that watch is best for me in my swim trunks or in a sweater or, when I'm just a little bit more casual, right? A t-shirt, a hoodie, right? Whatever it may be, right? And when I'm going to wear a suit, I want to wear something a little bit, right, cleaner, right? Something a little bit more elegant. So that's where this whole class of watch fits in, this elegant sports watch. What are a few of them? Patek Philippe's Nautilus, Audemars Piguet's Royal Oak, IWC's Ingenieur, Vacheron Constantin's 222, and overseas. Not just luxury watches too, right? It goes into, affordable watches. You have Christopher Ward has done an amazing job with their 12, right? You can go into independence, which Christopher Ward made me think of. You've got Japek, right? Obviously. You can go into a whole world of independence, right? There's an Italian brand that a friend recently turned me on to, Versatility, it's called, right? There are so many brands that understand that this class of watch actually, does a lot for somebody, right? Can cover those two bases of elegant and sporty without going too far in either, right? But what were the pioneers? Obviously, Gerald Genta in the mid-1970s came up with this idea of juxtaposing industrial design and elegance, of course. As I've said before, I think it dates actually way further back. I think that Louis Cartier, when he designed his Santos for Albert Santos Dumont, who was a Brazilian pilot and friend back in 1905 or 1904, I believe, that was the original, I've said this before, maybe you've heard, or maybe this is your first time, but that was the first designer, I think, to really juxtapose these two ideas. But fast forward to the late 70s, and it was this watch that I think took it to a new level. And really, think about it, so quickly after Genta sort of revived the concept of the juxtaposition, even though Cartier, I think, invented it. But it was so quick. Today's episode is sponsored by our friends over at Squarespace, one of our longest sponsors, and for good reason. I would not be here today as an entrepreneur had it not been for my trusting Squarespace. Their web development capabilities, their web design capabilities, now all their extra extra tools, their AI SEO tools, their flexible payment system, their fluid engine system, which allows me, even a very simple, right, kind of, basic designer, to drag and drop and move copy and select fonts and designs and everything. It's amazing. Their invoicing system is unbelievable. I don't just recommend Squarespace to the people out there that don't have a website and need one. I'm also talking to everyone out there that has a website, has a company, and says, well, it could always be better, right? You can always make more money. You can always have an easier life. You can always, right, be more efficient and have better partners. I'm telling you, Squarespace is the answer. So head on over to squarespace.com/Theo Harris and get 10% off of your first website or domain, and thank me later, because you couldn't possibly find a better partner than Squarespace. You had the Royal Oak in 1972, and then you had the Nautilus in 76, and boom, 78, Cartier releases this watch, which was their first attempt, and a successful attempt at that, at a mass market play, a more affordable watch, although still luxury, that compared to Audemars Piguet and Patek Philippe, but a more affordable compared to those piece that captured that moment in culture. And frankly, while they weren't the first to market, right, they were able to, I think, maybe even do more to define a generation of people. I think that there are far more people that have a relationship with the Cartier Santos than there are people with a relationship with the Nautilus or the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, right? This watch was a wild success. You remember it from 1987, I think, in the movie Wall Street in full gold, but you remember it all over. This watch is iconic. I mean, it's so famous. And when Cartier brought it back pretty recently in their new, iteration, two-tone steels, full gold, whatever, people were reminded again how great these watches were. And that's when prices started to go up, okay? So when I bought my watch, which was about 3 or 4 years ago, I think I paid like $2,700, something like that. Now they're worth around $5,000 depending on condition. I see them go up into the sixes sometimes, of course, different dial configurations, because they're not just like this. They come with a red burgundy dial, they come with a ghost dial. This watch in full gold also very rarely, but does come with rubies or sapphires in the screws. They made a women's version as well, mixed yellow gold and white gold. There are so many versions of this watch, and it's just become such a kind of cultural, I hate to use the word icon again, but it's such a cultural icon, and for a reason, right? The prices, while expensive, are, relatively speaking to the luxury world, approachable, and yet the watches are so rich and so well known. They come with a lot of, I was going to say baggage, but that implies a negative connotation. It comes with a lot of pretense in a positive way, right? To be a member of the Santos Club, or the Cartier Club for that matter, is something that is, there's a cachet about it. There just is. And even though everyone knows that, or not everyone, but, Patek Philippe is more regal and even more important, there is just such a cultural weight and meaning behind wearing a Cartier. It's the truth. I mean, what's inside these watches? They're just ETA movements. They're nothing fabulous. They're not marvels of horology. That's the point. The point is that they just got the design so right. The case brushing, the proportion, the color, everything, the crown guards, everything about these watches just fits right under the cuff, but still seems masculine enough, right? If I wear a Cartier tank into a meeting, of course it's appropriate, of course, but it's going to be less relatable, right, to the average person's taste. Brand aside, they're going to say, oh, he's kind of dressing up. He's kind of trying, maybe a little too hard, right? It's a little formal. There's a pretense about that is not always super positive. But then you've got something like this, right? That class of watch, that elegant sports watch, that 222, that Ingenieur, that Christopher Ward, that Carré, Galby for that matter, which is the successor to this model, that just rides that line so well. This is one of the greatest watches, in my opinion, ever made, ever designed. I think it's one of the most important, just hit the nail on the head pieces. In the beginning, I didn't like that it had a running second hand. Most of my watches, don't have that. I'm a dress watch guy, so I'm not used to it, but I've grown accustomed to it, and I love it. I haven't worn this watch in a while, admittedly, but I picked it back up again a couple of weeks ago, and I've been trying to wear it, and I'm away on work, and I've been wearing it, all week, and that's it. I mean, I've been really enjoying it, and I think that part of the reason there is, one, it's not It's not expensive enough to feel kind of guilty about owning, right? It's not a Royal Oak where you're like, ooh, that's a lot. It's a ton of cash we're tying up here. Maybe it's irresponsible or whatever. But around $5,000, which of course is a lot of money to a lot of people, it's not a question. But compared to the world of watches, it is, an entry level into luxury, and it's just kind of as good as it gets within the class of, within this category, right? I don't think that a Patek 3800, which is a $45,000 watch and two-tone, is, 8 times, 10 times better than this. I don't. I think they're essentially equals on the merits of design. Honestly, I might even say that the Carré is better. 3800 is great. I might even call the Carré better. It's just that good. I don't think these watches will be $5,000 forever. I've seen the dials creep up, like I said, over 10 even for particular dials. But I even think that these mass-produced two-tone models, which were just everywhere in the 80s, I think that they are going to go up. And I'm not trying to cause that. I'm not trying to blow up everyone's spot. I'm not. But I really believe in it, and I hope they don't go up, because that would kind of defeat the purpose of kind of what I'm saying here, right? It kind of like, if a large portion of this conversation is like, there's so much value here, they're so incredible, and I love how it's kind of guilt-free ownership, relatively speaking, and then if they hit $10,000, then this whole video is irrelevant, and I hope that doesn't happen. But for you watch folks out there, like, that just are looking for a tremendous amount of bang for your buck, staying within the world of like even known luxury brands that have historical pretense and cachet, you're not going to do much better than the Cartier Santos Carée. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you want behind the scenes content, and there's a ton of it, head on over to The Zero. Link is down below. We release videos every Tuesday. I actually just released a pretty good conversation about Patek Philippe's direction that I think you're going to find really interesting, and the relationship between Terry and Stern and his father, and what I think the future is for that company. So head on over to The Zero, join up, and I'll see you on over there. That's it.